And so prior to my kindness journey, I was super sarcastic, like the most sarcastic person probably you'd ever meet. I always had, a comeback or something to say. So I'm sure when I was telling her to do her homework or clean her room or do the dishes, that I wasn't saying it in the most kind way, right? And so she would always say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I'm thinking, okay, you little 15-year-old, do what I tell you to do. And this went on for, about a year. It was literally her saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And then fast forward to someone saying something to me that was completely off the wall. And I thought to myself, why did you say it like that? And as soon as I thought those words, why did you say it like that? Her little 15-year-old voice popped into my head and said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I have 28 nieces and nephews, and they're the loves of my life. And if I'm going to be a role model in their lives, if I'm going to make a positive impact in their lives, I made a decision to start acting kinder. Now, that didn't happen overnight. I said, okay, I'm going to be kind, and then it all changed. No, it took me about a couple years before really that kindness muscle really took effect.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another edition of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, the kindness giver, joined by my wonderful co-host, Dr. Elia Garrett, the happiness doctor, who's hanging out up in Breckenridge, the winter wonderland right now. And he's coming to us from Colorado. And we are so honored today to have another amazing guest, a beautiful lady named Louisa Garrett. And I'm going to share with you just a little bit about Louisa, because she has kind of a unique story. Louisa Garrett is a self-made kindness expert. Her journey began after one of her heartbeats, a term that she affectionately calls her nieces and nephews, one of her nieces called her out, and the tone that she consistently used about 12 years ago, that one comment got Louisa thinking there must be a kinder way. And so now it's her life mission to spread as much love, joy, and kindness for as long as she can on the planet. Lisa's the founder of a wonderful organization called Make Kind Loud. She's the chief kindness officer there. And I got to correct that. It's Make Kind Loud, Pass the Love. She founded her movement out of frustration from all the negativity, chaos, and confusion happening in our country and in the world. And she'd examined her own story and discovered, there's a lot better way, things that I can make a conscious decision on to change the way that I'm showing up. So Louisa is an author, a speaker, a kindness coach, a consultant, a publicist, and she spends the majority of her time spearheading kindness initiatives, organizing love ambassadors, and showing companies how creating a culture of kindness can have a positive impact on their bottom line. Boy, Louisa, just from sharing that, I can tell you speak our language. We're working from the same heart space. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you both and talk about all things kindness.
Welcome, Louisa. And I'm very curious to know, what did your niece tell you that became the impetus for you to perhaps choose a different way of responding or speaking and so on? And how grateful you must be to her for having the courage actually to speak to her aunt, right?
Yes.
It takes some courage. I mean, that takes some courage for that. So tell us the story. What happened?
For sure. Thank you. So about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, because she's 27 now, she lived with me during her high school years. And teenagers, you tell them to clean their room, do their homework, do whatever. And sometimes it comes with a little bit of attitude, right? And so prior to
a lot of attitude.
Teenagers, did you just say teenagers and attitude in the same?
Yes, but we were all teenagers once too. So, we had some
Yeah.
attitude ourselves, right? And so when I would tell her to do something, she would always say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so prior to my kindness journey, I was super sarcastic, like the most sarcastic person probably you'd ever meet. I always had, a comeback or something to say. So I'm sure when I was telling her to do her homework or clean her room or do the dishes, that I wasn't saying it in the most kind way, right? And so she would always say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I'm thinking, okay, you little 15-year-old, do what I tell you to do. And this went on. This went on for, about a year. It was literally her saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And then fast forward to someone saying something to me that was completely off the wall. And I thought to myself, why did you say it like that? And as soon as I thought those words, why did you say it like that? Her little 15-year-old voice popped into my head and said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I have 28 nieces and nephews, and they're the loves of my life. And if I'm going to be a role model in their lives, if I'm going to make a positive impact in their lives, I made a decision to start acting kinder. Now, that didn't happen overnight. I said, okay, I'm going to be kind. And then it all changed. No, it took me about a couple years before really that kindness muscle really took effect. But it was really her at 15 letting me know that she didn't appreciate the way I was speaking to her. And it doesn't matter. It's not what I was saying. It was how I was saying it that was hurting her feelings. And because her feelings were hurt and she had the courage to tell me that made me take a look at my life and what I was doing and how I was presenting myself, not only to the world, but to my nieces and nephews specifically.
My biggest takeaway from your story, which is a lovely, wonderful story, is this: I made a decision.
Yes.
That rings, as loud as anything. As that's number one, and number two, of course, we're all human beings. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes some consistency. It took you a couple of years to get to the place where you are now. I think those are really important for our listeners. Take action. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It doesn't matter, right? Take action now, and it will change the course of your life. And it's not going to happen overnight, so stay consistent. But watch what happens as a result of that.
Exactly. And consistency is the key. Like I said, it took me a couple of years because sarcasm was my default, right? And so when someone said something, a sarcastic thought immediately popped into my head. So I had to reprogram my mind and filter through those thoughts until I got to a point where I was like, okay, yes, say this. And it's the power of the pause too. You don't have to respond immediately, right? You don't have to, you don't have to say the first thing that pops into your head. Sometimes you just take a beat, take a breath, and then filter through all of the thoughts until you get to one that's like, that's it. That's the one that is the most kind in this moment. Let me say that.
I love what you just said. It's the power of the pause, because it's, how often do we catch ourselves just speaking before we think at all?
Oh, yeah.
We speak before we think, and then we wish we could, so many times we wish we could just go suck that back in, suck in what we just said. And so that's a very good point. The other thing, as Elia was saying, the nice thing that you pointed out, it does take time.
Yeah,
and we have to set, sometimes we set really, really, really high expectations for ourselves. Not that it's not good to set high expectations, but we go into overdrive, and we end up getting discouraged when things don't happen as fast as we would like them to.
Right.
And we have to set, listen, and recognize, like you did, things aren't going to change overnight. I'm not going to become this super person, super kind instantly. It's going to happen over time.
Yeah.
And you know what else that I love, Louisa, is that when you talked about the pause, that requires high emotional intelligence, right? Meaning managing our emotions, which we all know that. But what I love about what you said is like, I pause, thought. Now that's the one that's appropriate for this time. I love that. I don't think anybody has ever shared that with us. Like you may have multiple things that you want to come out of your mouth. You're like, no. That's the one. This is the appropriate for this particular time towards this particular niece and so on. And that's brilliant.
Thank you. And it took me a while because, like I said, at the first couple years, that pause wasn't taking effect, right? Sometimes I would slip up, and that's a beautiful thing about life, is that you do slip up, right? So even today, I'm 12, 13 years into this journey, and even today I have slip ups because we're human, and no one is perfect. We all make mistakes. But at this point in my life, when I make a mistake, I immediately own it. And if it's something that I need to go apologize for, or send an email, or just restructure that situation, then I do it immediately. But whereas in the past, I would just ruminate on it and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said that. And just beating yourself up over it. And I think that's important for people to understand, that you don't have to beat yourself up for a mistake, as long as you own it and then do better the next moment, because I believe life is lived in moments, right? And so just because something happened at 9 a.m. that really got you, right, doesn't mean that you have to carry that out throughout the day. That happened at 9, but at 3 o'clock, it's a totally different day. And you can choose to show up differently than you did at 9 a.m. So stop beating yourself up. We're all humans. We all make mistakes, but own it. Own what you did and get better in that next moment.
Goodness, Elia, I'm just sitting here thinking we're not going to even have to ask her to give us some nuggets.
I mean, there's so many gems that are coming out of her mouth. I don't even know.
You just dumped a load of nuggets on us. This is great. Okay, well, so
I did want to make one comment though when you use the word mistake. And one of my role models and a man that I've admired, since I was a kid, is Nelson Mandela, who wisely once said that in life either you win or you learn. Meaning that as long as we're learning, there are no mistakes.
I love that.
I know, it's beautiful, because now, of course, if we don't learn, then we're going to keep repeating the same pattern over and over again. But right. he brought up like two options: either we win or we learn. And you and I both know that the greatest lessons that all three of us on this call, and I'm sure our listeners, have not come from our successes in life. The greatest lessons have come from time when things did not work out, or at the time appeared setbacks, or human frailties, human weaknesses. Just like you talked about, we're human beings. It's out of those experiences that the greatest growth has ever taken place.
Totally agree. Completely agree.
So even your sarcasm actually was a gift eventually to lead you to where you are now. I mean,
yeah.
By the way, I say gift in quotes, of course, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And the funny thing about sarcastic Louisa, that's what I call her, sarcastic Louisa, is that she's still inside of me, right? She's still there. It's just, I don't choose to allow her to surface a lot. And there's many people, humans have so many different facets to themselves. There's so many different levels, and we're beautiful because we're flawed, and we're compassionate, and we have so many emotions that it's okay to still have that sarcastic side, but how you choose to use it, how you choose to use that is the important part. Because sometimes sarcasm is necessary, but not all the time. And necessary when I say like in a funny way or in a jovial way. Sometimes it's fun to bring her out, but not in the I'm going to really take a stab at you or jab at you way. So yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Randy.
I was just going to say, it's like when I said earlier, when you said, did you just say teenagers and attitude in the same sentence?
Right.
My first half of my career, I was a clinical psychologist in private practice. So, what you learn in psychology, of course, that as human beings, we have all kinds of defense mechanisms.
Yes, for sure.
And the most common defense mechanism, like I go into denial or repression or projection. I project to other people. Those are the most common ones. But the ones that are also defense mechanisms, but are not seen as much, is sarcasm and humor.
Mhm.
And in
I
some
agree.
ways, I mean, they're not the heavyweights like denial and projection, but they are defense mechanisms. It's a way for us to cope or to deal with situations, conversations. We usually learn that early on in our lives, and they're effective at some up until the point when they are no longer effective.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
And they become ineffective when they start digging into somebody else.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
when you're using them as a tool, uh, Louisa just said, "Good grief, Louisa, I just had a brain freeze." Like Louisa just said about when you're using them to stab somebody,
Yeah.
that's when sarcasm and those things become totally inappropriate, because it sours the relationship,
Agreed.
sours the experience that you have with people. So
Yeah.
Because sometimes sarcasm is funny, though. I mean, there's
it
funny. I mean,
is.
there's that's why I say humor and sarcasm. That's why they're not at the top tier defense mechanisms, and they can be useful until you cross over and you hurt another human being by that. If
Yes.
otherwise, if you're not doing that, sometimes it is funny though.
Oh, it can
Yeah.
be hilarious.
But you gotta be careful though. You gotta be careful because that is a fine line. That is a
It's a
fine line.
fine line, yes.
So
So
yeah.
here's the next thought. Your niece, you decided to change. You worked on it for 2 years and stuff, and then it drove you into another career path. Tell us about what you've been doing. You've got this organization, Make Kind Loud.
Yeah.
And what was the other part of it? Love.
Well, it originally started out as Pass the Love, and then it
Yeah.
migrated into Make Kind Loud. And so Make Kind Loud is just exactly what it says. It is the trying to make kind as loud as possible, because there's so much noise, there's so much negativity around us that shouts. The negativity is very, very loud, that we don't necessarily see all the goodness and the kindness that there is in the world. But there is so much goodness and kindness. And the mission of Make Kind Loud is to amplify it so that it isn't out of the norm. When people are kind, it becomes the norm. So when people are kind, it's not like, oh my God, you did such a kind thing. That should be the way we operate innately, instead of having so much noise around us. And I understand that we live in a world of noise and chaos and confusion, but it can be cut. That noise and chaos and confusion can be cut with kindness and compassion and grace. And so my mission is to talk about it as much as possible, to post about it as much as possible, to just get out there and show up, to allow other people to see that they too have the power to show up in love and kindness and grace. And if more of us start showing up, then kindness will not be out of the ordinary, but it will be the norm. It will be the standard. And so that is truly my mission for the rest of my life, is to keep showing up in kindness and giving people the courage to show up in kindness in their own lives.
I love what you're saying. When we actually think of kindness, we think of kindness as being something soft or maybe soft spoken.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, oh, he's such a kind person. She's so kind. They're soft. What you're saying, though, is we live in a society that is so loud with its negativity. It's like, and it's 24/7.
Yes.
That in order to break through, like you said, we can't think about kindness as being soft spoken. We got to be more upfront about it.
Yeah. You got to be bold with it.
You got to be bold. I
Yeah.
really love that, because usually when I think of kindness, like something that's soft spoken and it's easy and quiet and soft, and just like, oh, we're so kind, everybody's so kind. But that's not, but in today's society, we have to be loud.
Draw the line between kindness isn't in your face though either. It's not something you get in people's face with or try to shove it down their throats. We can't.
Oh no, not at all.
And that's not what you're talking about.
No.
He's talking about amplifying the way people see it, the way we show it, we share it.
Exactly. Amplify that, because it's a personal journey for everyone, right?
Hello, I'm Randy McNeely, co-host of the Kindness Factor podcast and co-creator of the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Thank you so much for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate you. Kindness has totally transformed our lives, and we are totally dedicated to paying it forward by raising a voice for kindness. Why? Because kindness is love in action. And it's love that touches hearts, changes lives, and heals the world. If that resonates with you, we invite you to join us in our efforts to pay it forward. Here's how you can do that. First, subscribe to the Kindness Factor podcast at the link listed below. You can pay up to $10 per month. Your support will enable us to continue to deliver great content and to take our message to a much broader audience. Second, think of 5 people that you think our efforts will resonate with and take the time to email them and invite them to listen to the podcast, and if it resonates with them, to do the same thing that we're asking of you. Finally, take the time to subscribe, to like, and to subscribe to all of our social media channels listed below. Remember, with kindness, everybody wins. Thank you so much for your support.
I went through my journey, and someone probably said something to me prior to my niece about it's not what you say, it's how you say it, or had a conversation with me. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm sure someone had a conversation with me prior to my niece constantly telling me it's not what you say, but how you say it. However, I wasn't ready, right? And I think everyone has a personal journey to go through. And just because this is my journey and where I am right now, doesn't mean that I'm trying to force you into it. I'm just saying, hey, there could be a better way. And I'm just going to keep showing up. And then maybe some of these nuggets, maybe some of these ripples will land on your heart and soul. And then you can start using them in your own life. But it's a personal journey. So people ask me about tips and how do you become a kind person? You know, I can tell you what I went through, but I can't specifically tell you what to do because it's personal to each person.
That's beautiful.
You're a great communicator, you know that?
Oh, thank you.
No. Listen, I got gray hair. I don't need to pay compliments. When I tell you something, I mean it.
Thank you.
You have a way of
what you were telling me before we went on the air. Tell him what was your degree in?
Communications.
Oh, yeah. What? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well,
and she's great at it. She's great at it. And
you communicate with delight.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You know, which is different than, there are lots of good communicators, but you communicate from your heart. You know, this isn't just like you intellectually telling us, things. There's an essence inside of you that's just so bright.
And thank you so much.
Yeah, and and it's not a phrase I often use, like somebody communicates with delight, but there's a delightfulness about how you share your story, even when you haven't been perfect, and you're so comfortable with sharing that, which I think makes other people go, you know what, man, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
She can work on it. And I love the way you said, I worked on the kindness muscle, because it is something that we have to work on. It's, I wrote my book, The Kindness Giver's Formula. It's got 5 simple steps for helping people to create the habit of intentional kindness. And people, I've had people say to me, well, can't you just be kind? I said, how many things can you do perfectly in a day? After,
Right.
how many things can you do perfectly today? It takes practice. It's like playing the piano. Kindness takes practice. It'll get to a point where it's natural, but even then, we still have to keep practicing or keep doing it, or or we lose the skill. Just like anything.
Exactly.
If you learn how to play the piano and you practice and you do really well and you get to where it's like second nature, and then you stop, what happens?
You have to
go
start
back
over.
and rebuild those skills. I mean, you don't have to start completely back at ground zero, but to get back to where you were, you have to start, practicing again.
Yeah. It's like exercising. That's why I call kindness a muscle, because the more you practice it, and that's with anything, right? With love, with compassion, with grace, with joy, the more that you practice it, the more that you step into it, the more that it becomes natural, right? But initially, it wasn't natural for me. I had to take that pause. I had to filter through my thoughts. I had to say, okay, how am I going to show up better today? And I still do that today, but at the very beginning, it was a chore. It was like working out. It was literally building up the muscle until it became strong enough to say, okay, this is what you can say. Let's go. And not having, excuse me, and not having to filter as much, right? Because you built up those skills inside of you.
And we all grew up with the phrase, random acts of kindness. I feel like in today's society, it can't be random. It has to be conscious, deliberate, and mindful acts of kindness on a daily basis, you know.
And intentional. It has to be
Intentional. Thank you. Yes.
Very intentional with your life and what you're doing with your life and how you want to live your life. You know, people have asked me the question of what do you want your legacy to be? And we don't know what our legacy is going to be. All we can do is our very best to do our very best. And if we keep showing up in our very best, whatever that is for you, then the legacy part will take care of itself. But I can say I would love to be remembered as this, but if I'm not living it, then I'm not going to live up to that, right? And so your legacy is going to be the little things that you do every single day and making sure that you're intentional with everything, so that when you are gone and people think about you, then they can think about the things that the kindness that you've done and the compassion that you showed. But I can say I want that, but if I'm not living that, then that's not going to be my legacy.
I want to throw something out there too. Our audience needs to know, how many days in a row now have you gotten on and shared a little blurb, gotten on live, shared a little blurb about kindness? It's like 2000 something.
Yeah, I think it's 22 something. I don't keep track. I keep track when I put it on there, but I don't have it in my mind right now. But I think it's like 2230, maybe 2,230 days in a row that I've shared something about kindness.
No way. Wow.
Yeah.
She's got a little video clip. She's got over 2,000 video clips.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. It's mainly on Facebook. Like the earlier videos are all on Facebook, but I have expanded to LinkedIn and TikTok and all that now. But yeah, I started back however long ago that is, and it was something that I can't remember. Something that happened that was happening.
That's 7 years.
Yeah, something that was happening in the world, and I said, you know, I'm just gonna. I have the video that I said I'm gonna get on here every day, and I'm just gonna share some kindness because the world needs kindness. And every day since that video, I've gotten on and made a video about kindness.
That's a remarkable streak.
Only like what, 2 or 3 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, sometimes they're a minute, sometimes they or they're up to 3. But you know, no, I think the longest one I had was like 6 minutes, but I was on a rant. But they're typically between 1 and 2 minutes.
I just divided that by 365. Yeah, it's over 6 years. Every single day. That is a remarkable streak.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So wow. It was literally something was happening in the world. So whatever that was 6 years ago was happening in the world. And I was frustrated because I was like halfway into my kindness journey at this point. And I was frustrated. And I was like, what is the point? Am I really making an impact? Why are we here if all of this stuff is still happening? And then I made the decision, just like I did with my niece, that I'm going to show up on video every day and I'm going to say, be kind. And I've been doing it ever since.
Once again, take action, just like you did with your niece. That's intentional. That's mindful. That's loving. And that is your legacy. You know that?
Oh, thank you. Well, I hope so. I hope when people
or it's part of your legacy anyway. It certainly is part of your legacy.
Yeah.
That's an inspiration to me because we both do acts of kindness, but I don't know if I don't have the commitment or maybe the discipline that you have. Good for you, but you're inspiring me to do more, to do better.
When you think about it, it's take action. There's 2 things that she's talked about already: taking action and being consistent. I mean, I don't know how you get more consistent than 2,000 something days in a row.
You raised the bar pretty high now for
And well, I also want to, be very transparent. Like some days I be like, okay, do I do a video today? And then I think to myself, well, you said this is what you're going to do. And if you want to keep showing up to allow people to see that it is possible to show up, then you have to do what you say you're going to do. But some days I'm like, oh my God, okay, get up, let's go. I have to motivate myself to get up. So I don't want to come across as that it's easy, because there are some days where it's not easy. but it's necessary. So if we do it, if I keep doing it, then maybe those seeds will be planted, and then someone else will be inspired to start their own kindness journey. And that's really the point of it all, is to inspire others so that they can inspire others so that they can inspire others.
How do you, I'm very curious, how do you do it without feeling like you're being repetitive or duplicating the message from yesterday? How do you keep it fresh? Because that's, I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Thank you. The funny thing is that the first 2.5 years, the message was the exact same. Like every day I got up and said the exact same thing for 2.5 years. And then one day I said, I don't think I said it, but I think it just came out that the message was different. And so now I try to tweak it every day. But, you know, the premise is the same. Show up, be kind, love yourself, take a breath. And it's just it's just delivered in different ways. But, you know, the premise is the same. Just it's, you know, just nuggets.
Is the love yourself a call to action for people to be kind to themselves? Is that what that's about?
For sure. Because if you're not kind to yourself, how can you be kind to other people? Right?
Exactly.
It's like the cup. You've got to fill up your cup, your vessel, so that you can share the overflow. But if you don't have anything if there's nothing overflowing, then your vessel will be empty. And so loving yourself, being kind to yourself is huge in the journey, because if you're not kind to yourself, how can you be kind to someone else?
This is another gem. She just nailed it again. You know, fill your cup and you can share the overflow. That's another good one. Oh my gosh, you're like the great communicator is upon us. Wow.
Well, so if you could share any other additional nuggets with our audience,
I mean,
is there anything
wow.
you can share? I think she's done a brain dump on her, and this is great. You know, I am willing to bet that you've had, over this journey, a few other experiences. Is there anything else, any other experiences that you can think of that stand out in your mind that you'd like to share with our audience? Something that touched your heart and still inspires you now?
Oh, wow. There's so many, right? You know, I think I'm an empath, so I feel a lot, right? And so I can feel the energy in the atmosphere, and I know when it's heavy and I know when it's a little lighter. And the beautiful thing about us as humans is that we all have the capacity to be great and kind and loving if we choose to do so. And so when I see, you asked if are there any other instances, I see it all the time. Because like I said, I believe there's a lot more good in this world than there's not. And if we can just open our eyes, I guess one nugget would be, if we could just open our eyes and look around us, you will see it. The more that you focus on whatever, the things that you focus on the most is what's going to keep showing up in your life. And I was at a point where I was focusing on a lot of negativity, right? And so there was a lot of drama and chaos in my world. And when I made the decision to be kinder and started focusing on the kindness of this world, the more I saw. And so I believe that if we choose to focus on the good things, then you'll automatically see more good things, and you'll automatically be like, oh wow. And that could have been going on the entire time, but you weren't aware of it because you weren't focusing on it. And so I would say just be intentional on your focus, what you're consuming, not necessarily food, but social media, news, whatever you're consuming is what you're feeding your soul. And so just be aware of the things that you're consuming. And if you're feeling a little icky, a little then maybe you're consuming a lot of negative stuff, and you can transform that. So I love just the simple things of watching kids play. Kids' laughter it motivates me so much, because I love the sound of that, because it's just pure joy, right? And if we can just capture the pure joy of kids and then spread that to us as adults,
Need to be able
how
to model
different
that.
would this world would be. Oh my God.
Now, listen to this. I was at a conference last weekend, and one of the speakers talked about how children laugh on the average. I'm trying to remember. It's something like absurd, like 400 to 500 times a day.
Yes.
They laugh.
Yeah.
A day, every day,
Yep.
as kids. And we as adults, on the other hand, we're not even a tenth of that.
Yeah.
Like maybe 30 times, whatever. And exactly what you just said. Our true nature is to be light.
Yeah. For sure.
And our true nature is to be happy and fulfilled, and laughter is a big part of that. As a matter of fact, there are now laugh therapies, like groups where you laugh. There was a study that came out during the pandemic that said if a human being laughs for 1 hour cumulatively, not in a row, basically 1 hour a day, that the chemicals that are released from the brain stay in your system for 24 hours.
That's
now,
awesome.
think about that. It's just an hour of laughter basically gives you 24 hours of goodness, 24 hours of happiness, and so on. So let's not underestimate the power that children innately know. They don't have to think to laugh. They do it.
They just do it. They just do it. And
That's
it's funny that you mentioned that laughing as a therapy, because there's a thing called laughing yoga.
Yes.
It really is. And the people who started it said that when you laugh, even if you're forcing yourself to laugh, your body doesn't know the difference.
Right.
And so if you just start laughing out loud, forcefully laughing out loud, that your body, the chemistry in your brain was like, oh, okay, we're happy now. We're happy. And when you start forcing yourself to do it, you automatically, like on the back end, you start doing it for real, because it just makes you feel good and your body wants more of that.
My goodness, Louisa, we could go on for a long time, but we've hit the point where we need to be wrapping up.
Okay.
Giving us the golden nuggets. So our audience, if you haven't gotten any nuggets out of what's been said already, then I don't know where you've been. No.
And we'll put it on the thread too. I think when we post it on LinkedIn and so on, we're gonna have like Luisa's top. It usually ask for top 3 nuggets, but you're like
the
5
top 10.
Yeah, top 10.
So, Louisa, how can our audience find you? Where can they go to be able to connect with you? Obviously, I know we can connect on LinkedIn.
Yes.
But where else can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. It's just, I think if you type my name in, mine is the first one that comes up. So Louisa Garrett. And then on Instagram, it's Make Kind Loud.
I love that part. I love that. That's something, that's one of your nuggets that I'm going to think about, because I never think of kindness as being loud, but I see why it's necessary.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, so LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and that's where you can find me.
Are you on Did you say you're on TikTok as well, or?
Oh yeah, and it's Make Kind Loud on TikTok as well.
Okay.
I try to keep it consistent.
Boy,
I'm gonna use that from now. Next time I see somebody doing something kind, I'm like, do it louder.
I love that. I love that.
Here's the thing. Okay.
I'm just messing with you. I'm teasing, but you know what I mean. Like,
I do.
And that's the nice thing about like the kindness citations that Kevin talks about.
Yes.
You see somebody, you've been caught being kind. We're going to give you a citation for that. All the little things that we can do to amplify the kindness actions that are going on around. Louisa talked about, when you're looking for it, when you're looking for the good, you see it. I felt like she was crawling inside my head, because when I talk about the kindness givers formula, I talk about put your kindness antennas up, be looking around, and you will see so much more if you're willing to look, when you're intentionally looking for it. It's amazing what's there.
Right.
And again, we could jump into it. We could keep going, but we can't.
I know. I feel like there's got to be a part 2 in a few months too, because I want to talk to you, Louisa. You're so good.
I would love to do that. Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah. Thank you.
We
for
so
being here.
appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thanks you for having me
on. It's been a total pleasure.
You made our day. You know that? I mean, the day's still young here, but there's so much to think about what you said. And I think it's just the way you communicated it. It's just it's so beautiful. Thank you for your insights and your wisdom.
Thank you for having me. I love kindness. I love talking about it. So when I get a chance, I'm like, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Yes.
And thank you to our audience. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. If this conversation has resonated with you, please hit the like and subscribe button on our YouTube channel and all our other social media channels that are listed below. And take the time to share it with other people that you think might need a lift in their day. Take care.
Amen. Thank you.